Have you ever laughed so hysterically at something so simple you were starting to get legitimately worried that you were losing your sanity or something? About what were you laughing so hard then? In high school, a guy at my table was asked if he ever had sex, and with the most straight face said no, but I've seen dogs do it. His frankness and deadpan attitude made me laugh so hard, and for so long I was worried that I was going to pass out. Was this in Northwest Pennsylvania? I think I know that kid. Was this in Northwest Pennsylvania? I think I know the dogs. It was actually something in an Askreddit thread. The question was something along the lines of what is an unsolved mystery or paranormal activity that cannot be explained? Someone's reply was that one time when they were younger they farted and the TV turned off. I have no idea why, but something about how it was sandwiched between much more serious replies just made me lose it. I was laughing so much my wife came to ask what was so funny. Her reaction, basically calling me an idiot, made me laugh even more. Even as I type this comment I'm grinning like an idiot thinking about it. There's a sticker in my phone keyboard gallery of a purple llama with a box of carrots, and it says busy. I saw it at work, and laughed so hard I was crying. I legitimately could not stop my brain from recalling the image. I had to leave work undefined. I didn't question my sanity, but I got stuck in a laughing loop with my then 1-year-old son. He was laughing at my laugh, and I was laughing at his. It was the better part of an hour and we were both exhausted afterward. It was over 30 years ago and it still makes me some when I think about it. This is the end bloopers when they are talking about their religion and Craig Robinson says, and Dana's Muslim and Danny McBride just says shalom. It's not even that funny, but I lose my speep every single time. I don't remember the context, but my best friend and I, then in our preteen/early teens, were flopping around on her bedroom floor and screaming fish out of water. We insisted on showing her mom, who looked at us like we were on meth. I almost passed out. I could not breathe from laughing so hard. Many years ago, I went through about a week-long phase where I simply could not read my credit card number over the phone without laughing hysterically. No reason. It just started one day. Then I think I got all up in my head and it just snowballed from there. Every time I tried to order food, confirm some travel reservation, whatever, I would start laughing, and it would take me forever to get through the number. The surprising thing was how infectious the laughter was. I thought the people on the other end of the phone would be annoyed, but probably 9 times out of 10 they'd start laughing too. It was like some virulent mindworm of contagious hysteria. And then just as suddenly as it started, it was over. Hasn't happened since though. I still brace myself every time, just in case. I read a meme asking if Norwegian clowns say HJNK. My girlfriend speaks fluent Norwegian and told me how that would be pronounced. Kind of a he-on-k. I thought I was going to pass out from lack of air due to laughing. I'd catch a grip every now and then and a quiet eeyong would corpse me into laughing harder. My mom once said boo to my dad who kept hiccuping to make him stop. She said it in the most innocent and pure way that we couldn't stop laughing. The laughing went on for like an hour though. It was a windy day and I was eating a bagged lunch with my coworkers. Suddenly a huge gust of wind blows the bag and all my food away, leaving me staring at an empty table with a fork in my hand. I didn't even try to catch it. I just started laughing so hard I had to lay on the ground. I had a dream recently that a friend of mine spent 2 full hours focusing intensely hard on writing something down. When he was finally finished, he showed it to me. In a 5-year-old's handwriting in crayon. The page simply read apple idea dognuts. I laughed so hard I woke myself up crying. My family was eating at Red Robin. My grandpa told a great joke. I laughed so hard that I spit my pants. I was like 5. My dad took me to the restroom and asked if they were my lucky underwear. I said no. cut them off with his pocket knife, cleaned me up, and went back out to finish our food. Me and some friends went on a trip with this youth leadership organization. The trip was supposed to last 5 days, but our flight back home was delayed a full 22 hours. We ended up staying in a hotel and playing Cards Against Humanity. I think the prompt had something to do with the worst line on a first date or something like that. One of us answered yeast. We laughed for 10 full minutes and my sides hurt for the rest of the night. My friend and I were watching Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs when we were about 12. There's a scene in that movie where a giant bowl of water spills on everybody sitting in bleachers. And there's a guy in the splash zone ready to get wet. Except everybody except him gets splashed instead. And he throws his hat on the ground and yells, "Oh, come on." My friend and I laughed our asses off at this. And this eventually led to us replaying a ton of scenes in slow motion, zoomed in, etc. Misheard an episode of Octonauts about the coconut crab. The phrase astronaut crabs conjured simultaneous images of crabs in spacesuits and also giant crabs cracking open astronauts with their claws. And I absolutely lost it. I could hardly breathe. There were tears of mirth. My children were terrified, but also trying to keep up with the joke, which I could barely explain. We still talk about it, but it will never be quite as funny as when my brain caught me by surprise. It was late and my wife was driving us home. We passed by an R&W, a fast food chain with its own root beer. My wife said, "Hey, you know what R&W stands for?" And I said I assumed it was the initials of the founders. She said, "No, it's for hamburgers and would be," and I instantly and fully lost my speep. Her delivery was so cute, and I was so tired, that I laughed about it for the entire rest of the 15-minute drive. For the next several days I was still giggling every time I thought about it. Late at night during a middle school sleepover, my friends and I started to play a board game called Worst Case Scenario. The cover has 2 pictures on it, one of a shark, and one of a man running from a swarm of bees. Somebody pointed out it looked like the guy was running from the bee straight into the shark's mouth and we laughed for 10 minutes straight. The true worst case scenario. Me and my friend nearly ended ourselves laughing at the Benedict Cumberbatch memes, Benadryl Cabbage Patch and so on. It was at the point where it physically hurts to laugh. Really high. Doing a puzzle with my husband and we were eating the sweetest frozen pizza we had ever eaten. Like, just the worst. It was supposed to be garlic cheese, and it tasted like absolute nothing in cardboard. So we started pulling everything out of the fridge to put on it and make it better. Finally, my husband decided he was going to cook a bunch of hot dogs and roll them up in the pizza. Somehow, the concept of hot dog pizza was so incredibly funny, we both started laughing and couldn't stop. I laughed so hard. For so long it became physically painful and I couldn't breathe. But I couldn't stop laughing, so I was just barking out this weird honking cough. By the time we stopped laughing, I was pretty sure I had laughed myself sober. We marked the date on our calendar, so we never forgot Hot Dog Pizza Day. And a month after that night, Pizza Hut came out with hot dog crust pizza, and I swear they were spying on us. Undefined. I was in INSAT class and we were going over practice questions. The instructor read out a group of spoon collectors. And I began laughing so hard, and for so long, that I had to leave the classroom. I'm over it now, but it was troubling. That song oh 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 that smell. Can't you smell? That smell came on the radio and my husband quietly said, "Did she fart or something?" to himself. He didn't even mean for it to be funny. I think he just thought the song was dumb. I died laughing. And I'm cracking up right now thinking about it, and it was like 8 years ago. I was breastfeeding my newborn in the middle of the night and watching Dave Chappelle. The Rick James skit was on. I laughed so hard that my husband woke up and took the baby away because he was afraid I was going to drop him. He asked me what was wrong, and I snorted, "I'm Rick James, bitch." He was not amused. No, but way back when in high school the teacher wrote newspaper, but the A looked close to an O. So a kid laughed hysterically for a few minutes because it looked like newspaper. Which is pretty funny, but I wouldn't say multiple minutes funny. I was reading a list, probably on BuzzFeed, I don't know, and it was one of those that had alternate names for things, like danger noodle for snakes etc. And I got to volcano mountain fountain and I legitimately laughed for 20 minutes. Had to pee, cried, couldn't breathe, the whole works. I couldn't even think about it for weeks without cracking up again. My husband thought I had honestly lost my mind. Ladder goat. A few weeks back I was taking a shower and I looked at my foot and it just looked so stupid that I started laughing and couldn't stop. Like I had these weird paw-like failed hands attached to my legs and they were so ridiculous looking. And I was just going around with my body ending that way. I laughed at my foot for about 5 straight minutes. I was cackling like a witch at a memory that wasn't even that funny. I just remembered I had accidentally called a cup of tea a cup of tea. What made me look insane was that I started bursting out laughing in the backseat of my mum's car when her and my sister was talking about how many people had died BC of the last pandemic. Yeah. That was probably horrific to hear. In high school, my friends made a PowerPoint presentation for the class. As they were presenting, I noticed that the first few slides had a bunch of typos. No biggie. But as they reached the middle of their slide, the typos started getting more and more ridiculous. I quietly laughed at some of the funnier ones, but eventually I just lost it. I could not stop myself from laughing, and every time I was about to stop, another typo appeared making me laugh harder. I definitely questioned my sanity that day. I still don't understand it. A young cousin of mine was reading a book about a farmer Brown to her teddy bear. She paused to say something about it to the bear, and I asked what's his name. She looked at me, completely dead-faced, and said Farmer Brown, as though I were a complete idiot. I laughed so hard I ended up crying, puking, and I think I very nearly went into some sort of convulsion. Sometime in the mid to late aughts, my husband was on the phone with iRobot customer support regarding our Roomba. I was in another room, but I could hear his side of the conversation clearly, and I could tell he wasn't getting the results he'd hoped for. As he got more frustrated, he blurted out, "I've had problems with this robot since the day I brought it home." Something about that particular phrase just hit me hard. I immediately started laughing and couldn't stop. I was still laughing when he got off the phone. Understandably, he wanted to know what was wrong with me. Through maniacal laughter, I parroted the phrase back to him, which had something of a feedback loop effect on my laughter. It's been over a decade, but thinking of that phrase still makes me giggle. On a movie me and my family was watching, a man was slowly lifting a gun to fire at a woman. They didn't show her getting hit. They only showed a close-up of her high heels staggering back and forth. I lost it laughing. Everybody in the room was glaring at me. Wet soup. Just the idea of going into a restaurant, asking how the soup is and being told wet. At school 6 years ago, I was eating a jar of Planters mixed nuts and look at the warning label. Mind you, it was barely 7:00 in the morning and I did not drink coffee at the time. The warning label said mixed nuts and I could not stop laughing. I know it's there for people who aren't too bright, but it was just so blatant and hilariously undefined. I was in high school when one of my friends said something stupid and another replied, "What do you have in your head? Confetti?" The mental image of a head suddenly exploding into confetti still cracks me up to this day.